All right, everybody. So welcome to our second Saturday seminar of 2024. My name is Valerie Harteg, and I'm a PennTESOL East board member. I am currently teaching English language classes out in Reading, Pennsylvania, and Berks County, which is where I now live. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here. If you haven't already, please take a moment to share your name and your affiliation in the chat. As you now know, we are recording. I did share, and I'll share it again, the link to our YouTube channel. I'll put that in the chat. That's where we have all of our recordings living right now of our previous second Saturday seminars. We hope that you'll join us for our upcoming seminars, March 9th and April 13th. Save those dates. We have some exciting things coming your way, more info to come. And our spring conference, PennTESOL Spring Conference is happening May 4th. That's a Saturday at Temple University. So save the date. Our call for proposals and registration info is coming soon. But now, the reason that we're all here today is to hear from Bill Albertson of Drexel University. So most of you know him, but I'm going to go ahead and give a more formal intro, and then we'll hand it over to Bill. So Bill is a faculty member at the Drexel University English Language Center, the ELC there, where he teaches a variety of ESL courses at all levels, as well as introductory courses in linguistics. He's also the vice president of PennTESOL East of the board, and he's really passionate about professional development opportunities like these. He is the chair of our second Saturday seminar committee, as well as our conference planning committee. So we are so grateful to Bill for all that he does, and we're so excited to have him be the one to lead us today in our seminar. So I will hand it over to Bill. He has also just said that, this is going to be a very interactive seminar. So as questions come up, things come up, just let it happen naturally. No need to save things until the end, unless maybe you think it's going to be a really long, drawn out thing. So otherwise, just engage, enjoy, and have fun.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out on a Saturday morning. And Val, thank you so much for the kind introduction. Let me second what Val said about coming to second Saturday seminars and the conference and sending us your proposals for PTE Voices as well. Our newsletter and our conference proposals will be available soon. So, we hope to hear from all of you as well in the different types of professional development opportunities we have here at PennTESOL East. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I've been using ChatGPT in my class. If you've used ChatGPT extensively or even a little bit, I might not say anything revolutionary here. I'm just going to show you some of the things that I've been doing and some of the ways that it has given me some flexibility in the classroom and given me opportunities to provide types of instruction to my students that I would otherwise not be able to provide. Like Val said, this is going to be an interactive session, and we will have 2 breakout rooms, the first of which is going to start in just a minute. But our agenda is we're going to start with a breakout room where you can share the types of experiences that you've had with ChatGPT, either yourself or with your students or generative AI in general. Could also share any concerns you have about using it and your feelings in general. Then when we come back, I'm going to do a demo with ChatGPT, and it's going to be you who will be telling me what content that we're going to be exploring. So I'm going into this blind. I don't know what you're going to tell me, and we're going to generate some lesson plans together that focus on grammar. Of course, some of you might not be grammar people so much. I will touch on vocabulary and a few other things as well, but our main focus is going to be grammar. After that, I'll give you some time in a breakout room again to do some exploration on your own with ChatGPT and try some of the things that we've talked about and see what works for you and see what doesn't. And then we'll have a chance to come back here and share out what we've done. So I hope that this is informative and interesting to you, and I hope that it gives you something to get excited for when you go to class on Monday to try something new. So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms with a few of your colleagues for just a few minutes to share how you're feeling about ChatGPT in general, your use of it, students' use of it, and what experiences that you have. So let me open up some breakout rooms. We are going to do random, we're going to do random assignment, and we'll do 3 to 4 people per room. Have fun, and I'll bring you back in about 4 or 5 minutes. All right, everyone, welcome back. I want to just take a few minutes to let you share some of what you talked about in your breakout rooms and see what we're all thinking about ChatGPT and our experiences with it, or generative AI in general. Any volunteers?
I'm really bad, so I'm going to volunteer Angus. Sorry, Angus, you don't have to do it if you don't want, but I like what you described because I'd never done it before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just mentioned that for some in-class work, I created reading passages using ChatGPT where I specified certain grammatical patterns or vocabulary in advance, and then I requested comprehension and discussion questions to follow after. And then once it came out, it was a little bit rough, so I modified the reading passage and the questions myself, and then used those.
I mean, that's a great type of exercise to make. I remember a long time ago, I was in a session with Keith Folse, who is kind of our grammar guy. Many of you have read Keith Folse, I'm sure, and used his books. And he talks about how when you're teaching a specific grammar point, inauthentic text is an absolute necessity because you'll never be able to find something that's so densely packed with a single grammar point. And Angus, that was a great use of it to get something like that. And another thing that Angus brings up that's really important is ChatGPT spits out some questionable things sometimes. So, you always have to work with it, modify it, and, make it do what you want it to do. Any other things to share?
I'll share from our group. What I had mentioned is that I have tried putting in a student's paragraph, for example, and I've asked ChatGPT to only edit grammar in the paragraph, and ChatGPT is unable to do it. It wants to change the sentence structure and the vocabulary. And so I have not used ChatGPT at all with my students because it just really takes away all of the ownership from the student and their writing.
Yeah, this is one thing that I've talked to my students about. And I always highlight using ChatGPT for good versus evil. And so I've told them, if you write a paragraph and you run it through ChatGPT to correct the grammar, A, yes, it's going to take away your voice. And B, you're kind of subverting the lesson here, right? I want you to learn from your mistakes, not just have ChatGPT kind of fix everything. So yeah, to me, if a student writes their own thing and then runs it through in that way, they know that they're subverting the system a little. And plus, to Alicia's point, it takes away their voice. I think I saw Mary unmute. Mary, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking sort of more about the big picture in terms of what our departments, our schools allow in terms of the use of AI and guidance on that. And there's some differences between departments in terms of, like, you may not use this at all, or giving the teacher some autonomy. And more of that, Temple's done a pretty good job, but more of that I think would be helpful for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we go, this is all kind of a new thing. And actually, I think most of what I talk about today is going to be second nature in a couple years. We'll look back on this recording and laugh. But just like anything, you can use it to do, things you're not supposed to do, right? To cheat or whatever the case may be. And so there are limitations. But the same is true of the internet, right? How many of you go an entire day without using the internet as part of your lesson planning. But people cheat with the internet, people commit crimes with the internet, right? And I think with ChatGPT, it's the same thing. And there are a lot of schools with policies now that are a little bit heavy-handed at times in order to prevent cheating, because I think students now see ChatGPT primarily as a way to get around doing work. And we want them to use it as a tool to be better students, not as a tool to not do work. Anything else to share?
Bill, I just want to highlight Dr. Lawrick's point in the chat, especially the first point here, just on the teacher side of things. Amazing tool for teachers that reduces time for adapting a text for various ELD levels. And then Elena also says, for students, it amplifies practice time, much needed for developing automaticity. And on the institutional side, it depends on the institutional policy regarding AI, which you just kind of mentioned.
All great points. And in fact, point number 2, amplifying practice time, is something that I'm going to go into a little bit. Thank you for that. Sherry, you raised your hand.
Yes, so I wanted to ask Val then, so you said, oh, sorry, something about taking a text and modifying it. So does that mean you have a text, you cut and paste it into ChatGPT and then add questions to it?
I'll let Dr. Lawrick answer that.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Sherry.
Actually, it's an amazing tool. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
It's an amazing tool because teachers can say adapt it to a certain level. They can, it's so much more than Nearput does or PennTESOL does. So you can add comprehension questions, you can add glossaries in another language, you can adapt it to, remember we used Penguin, used to have books, the same book, but for level 1, level 2, level 3. So teachers can take the authentic passage that they're going to work with this week or this day and adapt it differentiate it for various levels with the customized accommodations or support for various levels of ELD. It's an amazing tool, really. But what is needed is that, at least what I noticed, is that teachers don't know how to use it. It's a new thing. We
Right,
also need to
I'm sorry.
Yes.
That wasn't my question.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, right. So my question was then, do you cut and paste the text into ChatGPT?
You can.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What I think Angus was talking about was more like, they're working on, say, the past perfect, and he wants a paragraph that has lots of past perfect in it. So he asks it to generate a paragraph that has that in it. And then sometimes what it spits out is a little bit weird. So you then have to you copy and paste it into a Word document and you kind of, spruce it up a little before it's ready to go to students.
Bill, can I share what I just recently used it for in our breakout group? Hi, this is Rosanna. I recently just used this on Thursday for a reading vocab test I had, and it generated just to vary up the vocabulary sentences that I want to use. I use it as a tool to assist me to come up with various sentences to change up my vocabulary just to keep it fresh for them. So it really helps. So I put in level 4 and it generated the sentences based on vocabulary I put in. So it's a really helpful tool in that regard when you need it and vary it up. So it's very helpful.
Yeah. And I'm sure you had to modify the sentences.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Absolutely. But it really helped,
Kathy Detmer says in the chat that she's a little bit nervous because ChatGPT learns from input. And that's true, right? So if it gets bad input, you might get bad output. And that's where you, the teacher, comes in, right? This is not replacing you in any way. This is just providing you with a tool to generate stuff. So I'm going to go and do a little demo for you of some ways that I've been using ChatGPT. Take it for what it is. It's a demo. It may work out, it may not. ChatGPT is incredibly unpredictable. And so in practicing this presentation, I've tried it a few times and I've had very different results every time. So we'll see what happens, and we're going to plan a little lesson. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see ChatGPT on my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you'll also see my other tab open, which is TED. How many of us like to use TED Talks in our ESL classes?
Yay.
I can't see everyone on the screen, but I'm seeing a lot of hands. What I need from one of you is the name of a TED Talk that you really like, preferably one that I am unfamiliar with.
Can you use the boy who harnessed the wind? I'm teaching that text right now.
It's a TED Talk,
Yes.
and it's called The Boy
The boy
Who
who harnessed the wind.
the Wind. Got it. Let's do it. How I Harness the Wind, William Kamkwamba?
Yes. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So the first thing I'm going to do, I've never heard of or seen this TED Talk, which is great for the purposes of this demo. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to read transcript, and I am going to copy the entire transcript. Oh, look at that. It's short. Whoops. All right. So I'm going to copy the transcript, and I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. And the first thing I say to ChatGPT when I'm doing a TED Talk is remove all of the timestamps and anything between parentheses in the following transcript so that I get a clean copy. I paste it in, and it will do that.
Nice.
It takes a second, but
Bill, can you also just comment on the version of ChatGPT that you're using?
yes, this is ChatGPT 3.5. This is the free one. Some of my students have paid for ChatGPT 4, and they talk about how wonderful it is. And I think that we will have access to that for free one of these days, or they're going to make us pay for all of it. Who knows? So now I have a clean copy of the transcript, and now I'm going to tell it what I want. So one thing that one of my students taught me when I first started learning this is when you're within a single chat, it remembers everything from the chat before. If you create a new chat up in the upper left, then you're getting a brand new chat and you're starting with it fresh. I have 2 chats saved over here from my classes that I'll show you in a little bit. So I'm going to give it the context of my class, or of Leslie's class, so that it knows exactly what it's doing and what its role is. So Leslie, tell me, what level are your students? Like the CEFR level?
So
No.
it's a lower, it's an 8292 class at CCP, which means it's a low intermediate reading and writing class. It's a combo class of reading and writing, 6 credits.
Okay, so we're going to call them B1 plus.
Right.
So it sounds like they're maybe in that neighborhood.
Yes.
And so there are the purposes of reading and writing, and I'm also going to generate some stuff for listening and speaking with this TED Talk as well, so that we get kind of the whole gamut. The first thing I like to do, Leslie, what languages do you have in your class?
I have over 200 languages at CCP, but this particular class is mostly African. African and it's Ghana, it's a lot of Arabic too.
Okay, so we're going to say we've got Arabic, we've probably got French.
Yes.
Let's throw in 2 other languages for good measures. Let's throw in Chinese and Russian. So
Good.
what I'm going to do is say, oops. I am generating a lesson for ESL students at the CEFR B1 plus level. I've also found that it's not that good at figuring out what these CEFR levels are, but you know, you tell it and it kind of does okay. Create me a list of 20 vocabulary words that will be useful for students at this level. Provide a translation for each of these words in, what did we say, French, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. So there we go. And what we're finding is that some of them are probably way too easy, right? They probably already know library. They probably already know simple. They probably already know life. But what's fun about this is I can continue the chat, right? This conversation is not over. Find me 20 more vocabulary words from the transcript above. Provide translations in the same languages. Okay, it put a name in there. Famine might be a good word. Physics might be a good word. Windmill is probably a good word. So I would just keep going until I find the list that I'm comfortable with. So you see, it didn't make me a perfect list, but I'm talking to it. I'm finding the list that I want, right? So then what I would do after that is I would make my vocabulary list. And how often are we actually able to provide a translation for our students in their native language? Probably not that often, right? And some people argue against providing a translation. They'd rather provide a picture or whatever. Sure, for windmill, that's fine. But I mean, what picture are you going to provide for starve? You're going to end up describing it. And what are they going to do? They're going to pull out their phones and they're going to look it up anyway. And I'm going to go back to Keith Folse one more time, who did a vocabulary presentation for PennTESOL East, who is in favor of using translation of vocabulary words. So you can do that if you'd like, but just as someone said in the chat earlier, we want to provide more time for our students to be practicing and interacting, not standing up here describing the meaning of all these words. Steve raised his hand.
So how accurate are these translations? Are they dependable translations? Because going by Google Translate a while back, it was often wacky and weren't accurate at all. So how are these ones?
So in my experience, it's been pretty good. Right now, I'm looking at the Chinese ones, and they look pretty good to me. We have some French professors here.
Elena said they're good in Russian.
They're good in Russian. Okay. So
yeah, the French ones look pretty good. Since I didn't actually read the thing, the windmill, moulin à vent would be windmill for like old style windmill, but if it's like an electricity generating one, it's a different word. That would be éolien. So maybe depending on the context.
yeah, it is only providing one translation. So good point, Steve. That might be something that we need to have checked, or even have our students check. Oh, another thing too with that, I'm very honest with my students. I tell them what comes from ChatGPT. So they know. I would tell them like, hey, these words, just double check everything. Sherry.
Yeah, because I'm a beginner with technology then. So the list might have some words that you want, some that you don't. So then can you cut and paste these like into a Word document and then just delete the ones you don't want?
That's exactly what I do.
Okay.
All right. And now I want to create some exercises with it. So let's pick out our 10 favorites. So I'm going to say, create me a fill in the blank vocabulary exercise on the same topic as the transcript above. You can create a fill in the blank activity fairly easily, but your sentences might be all over the place. If you go to something like a corpus, like the Corpus of Contemporary American English, they're going to be in all different contexts, but you're talking in this context. ChatGPT can do this using the following words. Which ones do we like? We like creation, windmill, irrigation, electricity, circuit breaker. I know I'm just picking for you, but I for the purposes of this demonstration, famine, fortune, Physics, is that 10 yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 more. Let's see, what do we want? Nervous and farmer. And again, this might not be the perfect list. You're going to engage with ChatGPT until you find the perfect list. I always say, do not tell me the solutions. Otherwise, it will tell you the answers. You'll have to check those. It usually comes out in the same order. So creation is number 1, the windmill is number 2. So now I'm just going to say, shuffle the order of these sentences. And now it's shuffled up so that your students don't just get the same words in the same order. Now, let's say I'm teaching a listening and speaking class. I'm going to say, write me a 100-word paragraph using as many of the 10 words from the fill-in-the-blank sentences above as possible. But I didn't want it to be fill-in-the-blanks. Show me the solutions, the solution. Don't leave any blanks.
Hey, Bill, can I just ask you a question while we're seeing it? Yeah. And Sandra posed, so there are 2 questions that came up in the chat. Sandra just posed a question. With the fill in the blank activity, is it differentiating grade level or difficulty? So is it like continuing to match that B1 plus level? Or is that, you know, as far as like what we're noticing here, or is that something that
supposedly?
Supposedly, okay.
It remembers what you tell it.
Should remember that, okay.
So it knows that I'm working at the B1 level, but if you read these sentences and you think that there's something that's too challenging, you can ask it to simplify it, or you can simplify it, right? Another thing
Mary, sorry. Mary had a question too that some folks answered, but wanted to check with you quickly. Does ChatGPT ask you, where is this text from? So would you ever get an instance where they'd say like, what is the source of this transcript that you put into this conversation? You know, it doesn't ask for that. Is that correct?
No, I gave it a transcript and it's working.
It doesn't ask for a citation. It just gave a transcript and that's that. It doesn't ask, where's this from? Okay.
Nope. You can tell it if you want to. And also another thing that you can do, well, I'll show you in a second. So look, now I created this 100-word paragraph, and now I'm going to do a dictogloss exercise with my students. Have we all done dictogloss before? So I'm going to read this paragraph.
Not everyone has done it before. So feel free to explain.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this paragraph out loud without pausing at about 80% of my normal rate. And students are going to do the best they can to get an accurate transcription of it. So I would read the first sentence at about this speed. Despite facing a challenging famine, the innovative creation of a young farmer led to the construction of a groundbreaking windmill in the rural community. And I'm going to keep going. Students are going to, scratch it down as fast as they can. I'm going to read it twice. Let them get with a partner or 2 partners, fill in whatever they can to try to reconstruct the text. Then I'm going to read it one more time. Then I'm going to give markers to students and say first sentence, second sentence, third sentence. They'll put it on the board and see if we can reconstruct this text together. And then we'll read it out loud together, practicing our pausing, thought groups, etc. So at the ELC, we do not have anything related to vocabulary in our learning objectives for listening and speaking because they have a reading and vocabulary class separately. So to have them interact with vocabulary, I do things like this, doing dictation and things like that. I can also say, show me the sentence in the transcript above containing each of these 10 words. So now it's going to pull out for me the exact sentence in the transcript that has that vocabulary in it for you to highlight. Wow, it's 10:40 and I haven't gotten to the grammar piece yet. So there we go with pulling that out. Yes, Steve.
Just another quick question. So was your intention for this to create the short paragraph from the original transcript? Or do you find that it would be more interesting to put those words into a new chat and have it create a brand new. And have you tried it, and what was the result of that? I know it's a
Doing
weird
the exact same thing in a brand new chat.
Yeah, because basically reading that short paragraph that you have, it's just like a it looks like it's a summary of what the original transcript was,
Right.
based on that. So was that your intention?
Kind of. 'Cause
Okay,
I'm
I
trying
wasn't
to-
sure if you're trying to create a brand new story based on those words or not. That's all.
I'm trying to activate schemata with it a little bit, get them kind of familiar with the ideas from the text with this vocabulary before they listen. But hey,
Okay.
let's try what you said. So here are the 10 words, and now I'm in a brand new chat, so it doesn't know anything. And I am going to say, write me a 100-word paragraph using the following 10 words. The paragraph should be appropriate for a CEFR B1 plus English language reading level. Let's see what it does. Ooh, it gave us toils tirelessly, uninterrupted observation. This is a little hard. So I'm going to say make the vocabulary a little easier. But keep the 10 words that I gave you the same. Oh, we still have diligently.
Well, thanks for the example. It just was it's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, this, did it take away some of my vocabulary? It looks like it may have, because I didn't tell it to keep it. But again, you can play around with it and see what you get. But I'm going to go back to our chat. So now it remembers me again, because I'm back in our original chat. You can think of these chats like chatting with different people. So they remember what you say, and they don't remember if you're in a new one. And so I'm going to say, give me 5 grammar points from the original transcript that are taught at the B1 plus CEFR level of English. Simple past, present perfect, modal verbs for possibility and advice, comparatives and superlatives, and conditional sentences. I like the idea of modal verbs. So I'm going to say, show me the sentences in the transcript with modal verbs for possibility and advice. There are only 2 of them. So maybe I go a different route. Show me all the sentences with present perfect. Is that a better grammar point for us to teach? Look at this. Before that time, I had never been away from my home in Malawi. That's actually past perfect. I had never used a computer. Past perfect, simple past perfect again. There's not a single present perfect here, right? So we do have to watch out for that. The other day, it gave me gerunds and infinitives for one that I did, and I asked it for examples, and every single one that it gave me did not have a gerund or an infinitive. In fact, it was one of the infinitive ones that was the only one that actually had a gerund in it. So you got to play around with it and see what you get. Let's see, show me all the sentences with the conditional. This is ChatGPT. It's all unexpected. We have no idea what we're going to get. Wow, 1 sentence and it's not even the conditional. Let's ask it for more ideas. Give me 5 more grammar points I could teach. We just keep talking to it. Gerunds and infinitives. I'm a little nervous about that. All right, passive voice. Show me the sentences from the transcript with passive voice. All it did was take actual sentences that are in there and turn it into passive voice, which is not what we're looking for. Show me exact sentences from the transcript with passive voice. It apologized to me. There is no passive voice. The point is, we keep going until we find something. This is the longest I've gone without finding something, and of course it happens when there's an audience. I'm going to give it one more shot, and then I'm going to move on to something else. Show me the sentences from the transcript with relative clauses. Everybody loves a good relative clause. There we go. This is me with my dad when I was a little boy. Well, that's an adverb clause, but it was a simple machine that changed my life. I was just a simple farmer in a country of poor farmers. That's a reduced adjective clause. That was, or who was, in a country of poor farmers. Another book that put knowledge in my hands. They're not all relative clauses, but I think that this is a pretty good one to run with. So now I've just decided, okay, I'm going to use this TED Talk in class, and I'm going to teach relative clauses. One of my friends, Kate Tomaskovic, who many of you might know, she was teaching at Penn GSE, and she always told her students, when you're teaching a grammar point, and you just give them the grammar point, it's like showing them a picture of an individual flower. But first, if you show them the entire field, and you give them the field, you can zoom in on the individual flowers. And that's what I'm doing here, right? So I picked a grammar point from the transcript that I have, and now I can zoom in on the specific ones that have relative clauses in it. Now I want to generate some exercises, right? So I'm going to say, create me 10 pairs of sentences for ESL students to put together on a topic similar to the transcript. Make sure that when the students, make sure that students can combine the sentences using a relative clause. Give them the relative pronoun to use in parentheses at the end of the sentence. Here we go. The windmill was built by the farmer. The windmill pumps water for irrigation. So now here I am standing in front of my class saying, what word is repeated in sentence 1 and sentence 2? And they're saying, the windmill. And I'm going to say, I'm going to use the pronoun which. How do I put that together? The windmill was built, the windmill, which pumps water for irrigation, was built by the farmer. Of course, you know, someone's going to say the windmill was built by the farmer, which pumps water for irrigation, but the farmer doesn't pump water for irrigation. The windmill does. So you, the teacher, you're still explaining these things. And one of the most important things to know that when you're using ChatGPT instead of a traditional grammar book is you have to know what you're doing, right? When you pull out Betty Azar's, English grammar that everyone uses, it has all the explanations right there. This doesn't, and in fact, when you ask it for an explanation, it does a terrible job. So it's going to be on you to make sure that you know your grammar really well when you're using ChatGPT. But I'm sure everyone in this room is a grammar whiz. Of course, you need to check this and make sure that everything is correct. Now, one of the huge advantages of this is that you have an unlimited amount of practice. If you're using a book, for example, like North Star, is everyone or many of you familiar with North Star reading and writing and listening and speaking series? I'm teaching out of North Star right now for listening and speaking, and there are grammar points that we want them to do in spoken grammar. Passive voice, conditionals, things like that. And in the chapters, there's just one little dinky section, which is like fill in the blank grammar and then like one question. I can produce an infinite number of questions from this. So when I'm teaching written grammar like this, I can regenerate this a bajillion times. And now we have one to do together in class. I have one for them to do for homework. I have a pre-test and then a quiz that's all roughly the same so that students actually know what they're doing. I can create an infinite amount of grammar resources and grammar exercises. I also want to focus on spoken grammar, right? So I'm going to say, write me 10 discussion questions. I'm not going to use all 10. I'm going to pick what I like, right? Write me 10 discussion questions about the transcript that elicit relative clauses. Can you describe the machine that the speaker built and how it changed his life? What were the materials that the speaker found in the scrapyard and how did he use them to build his invention? These are comprehension questions, right? Give me 10 more that elicit relative clauses that allow the students to discuss and give their own opinions. How do you think the speaker felt? Do you believe that access to education is important for overcoming challenges like the speaker faced? Can you think of examples? Oh, look, and it's even giving us some relative pronouns for them to use. So now I've got a whole discussion going on. Now, maybe I taught passive voice last week and I want to kind of spiral that, right? A lot of times when we're teaching out of a book like North Star, we get we get the one grammar question in that unit, and then we never get passive voice again. But I can make sure that my students are getting that same grammar every time by coming and come here to do this. So give me 5 more, but this time elicit passive voice. How do you think the windmills are typically built? Can you describe a situation where you think an invention or innovation was developed by someone facing challenging circumstances? All kinds of things. I can even pick one of these to be a question that we ask before we watch the TED Talk to activate schemata and get them talking about the topic, using the vocabulary, et cetera, et cetera. Now I want to go further. I want my students to do a 2 to 3 minute presentation on this topic. What are 5 ideas that I could use for a presentation that elicits relative pronouns and passive voice? Innovative solutions to global challenges, impact of renewable energy technologies, education initiatives in developing countries, community-led development projects.
Sorry, Bill. Muted for a second.
Okay, I did not mute myself, I don't think, but I'm back. I love this. Community-led development projects. Students can research and present on community-led development projects. Give me a list of community-led development projects in Philadelphia that students can present on. Let's see what they come up with. Urban gardens and community farms, community cleanup and beautification efforts, youth-led art programs. So now, it's going on and on and on. Sometimes you can't get it to be quiet, right? So now, if Leslie wants her students to present or write an essay on something like this, she's got all of these wonderful topics that she can give them. Of course, Leslie's still going to have to write a rubric because ChatGPT is really bad at writing rubrics. I tried. Sherry.
So when you say, give me presentation topics that use, this grammar point, and then they give them, then the students have to create their own sentences with that grammar point to use in the presentation?
Sherry, the wonderful thing is you can do whatever you want because you're the driver of the car, right?
Yeah, but the students will have to work hard to create those sentences, right?
Students have to work hard, Sherry. That's how you learn English.
Okay.
Right? So in any presentation that we do, right, on our rubric, there's usually some grammar points that we want them to get. And, we read Laschke and Blythe Roman 1993 in graduate school, and we know that task essential forms, are important. When we design a task, we want to design a task that promotes the use of a particular grammar point. So we teach it in class, and now, we assign this as a presentation. You could do it however you want. You could have them work in pairs to go research. You could have them go visit something. You can find some of these initiatives on your own by Googling or send them out to do it. But in just a few minutes here, we came up with this wonderful idea of an engaging presentation that's not just, present on something, that we might not have otherwise come up with. Yesterday, when I was doing a random demo based on a TED Talk, it came up with a technology showcase. And it was really cool what it was giving me the idea to do. But ultimately, Sherry, these words are dead words on a screen. You're the teacher and you know what you like, you know what your style is. It adapts to you, right? As opposed to getting a book like North Star, where it's just, you're stuck with those topics. You can do whatever you want with this. And if you don't like what it gives you, ask it again until you find something that works for you. Now, I want to do more speaking with my class. Give me ideas for whole class speaking activities or discussion activities, eliciting the same grammar point on the same topic. Let's see what it gives us. Group discussion, boring. Role play, we've done that before. Debate, we've done that before. Interview activity, that sounds fun. A gallery walk. Students create posters or displays showcasing different community-led development projects in Philadelphia. Divide the class into small groups and have each group rotate through the gallery. So maybe instead of a traditional presentation, maybe they're at posters and at stations and they're going around. I didn't think of any of this before. Leslie just threw this topic at me, and now I'm coming up with probably a whole week's worth of lessons. Now, it would be like Christmas without presents if I didn't cite Diane Larson Freeman. Diane Larson Freeman tells us that there are some things that are really important when we're developing tasks. First is that we want to make sure that the task is appropriate for our students and that they don't already know the thing, right? So in her textbook, Grammar Dimensions, there's an opening task where students have to do, a specific thing with a grammar point. And she told us when I was in her class, if they can do it, skip the chapter. She goes, most teachers will teach it anyway. Skip the chapter if they already know it. You can create something like this, like a discussion to see, do they naturally use that grammar point, right? Another thing that Diane Larson Freeman talks about is the inert knowledge problem. And the inert knowledge problem, as she defines it, is where we teach students a grammar point in class, we give them practice, and then once they leave that topic or leave that class, then they are no longer using it. I do see that it's almost 11 o'clock. If people have to leave, that's fine. But I'm here and I will talk a little bit more for people who want to hang out. And so she talks about two different ways that you can address the inert knowledge problem. One way is to do task repetition. And task repetition can be really boring, right? The students have already done the task and now you're asking them to do it again. But with ChatGPT, you can ask it, you can get a variation on the same task. And that does not necessarily use all of your brain power that it might have taken before. It can give you those variations. Another thing that she says to do is have them read and watch on the same topic. Now, here's one cool thing that I noticed, a ChatGPT fail that I've used to my advantage. I put in something like, give me 5 articles that I can have a class read on this topic. And sometimes it will tell me that it can't Google, and it's true, it can't Google, but ChatGPT 4 can. What I've noticed is these articles are usually fake. If I Google these articles don't exist. But what I have done is I've Googled these titles, and I usually find something pretty darn similar. So if these are the kinds of things I want to do, I'll just throw this baby into Google. And I'll get that there's not necessarily something out there that says exactly that. But look, community gardens from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. Sherry is a member of this organization. I'm sure she would absolutely love this article.
Yes.
It's short and it's readable, right? So ChatGPT didn't give me the answer that I wanted, but it got me somewhere where I could get the answer that I wanted. And now I could throw this text in and do the same thing all over again. And now, look at me. I'm really excited for Monday because all Leslie did was give me the name of a TED Talk, and look at all the stuff that I've generated for us to do. We've got a vocabulary list. We've got a grammar point that we're going to teach. We've got discussion questions on that grammar point. So our students are going to be producing a whole lot. We've got this little research project going. We're going to have presentations. And, you know, I talked a lot, but you can develop that in about 20 minutes. Just keep having conversations with it. And then you get this grand idea. The drudgery is still there. You're still going to have to create your rubrics and things like that. But we've created something. Oh, and we've also spiraled grammar that we've had in the past, right? So that passive voice that they learned the week before, that simple past that they learned the week before that, that's still here because I asked ChatGPT for discussion questions on this topic. And many of you, I'm sure, own the book 500 Grammar Conversation Questions by Larry Pitt. That's a wonderful book. And it has, you know, questions that elicit certain grammar points. They're not on the topics that you're teaching. And I used to ask those questions, and I used to have grammar questions that I was asking that were not on the topics that I was teaching. Now I can ask grammar questions on those topics, and I never run out because ChatGPT is my friend. And the final word that I want to leave you with, and I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to do the second breakout room. I didn't think I was going to talk this much, is that ultimately you are the teacher, right? It is your job to bring this all to life. You are not being replaced by ChatGPT. Just like the textbook didn't replace you. And in fact, this gives you so much more customization than the textbook. It gives you so many things for you and your students to be excited about. And I hope that these tools will be helpful for you. You know, I don't think I've said anything revolutionary here, but I hope that I've empowered you to use ChatGPT a little bit. And if anyone wants to hang around and discuss a little more, I'm happy to do that. But this is the end of my little demo.
Thank you, Bill. Let's have a round of applause for Bill. He's wonderful. I see a few more questions popping up in the chat, Bill, so you may have some folks stay on.
Yeah.
Bill will probably end the recording at some point. One request, Bill, please do not delete that ChatGPT conversation. Please save it. We had a few folks ask, especially for the prompts that you put into ChatGPT so that they can review them and see the way that you constructed the prompts.
Sure.
That would be super helpful for everybody. So
I can save that. And thank you so much, Val, for being the host of this session. This will be on YouTube, on our PennTESOL East YouTube site. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and we can hang out and chat for a little bit if you'd like. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to this. I appreciate your attention and time.